How's it going, everybody? My name is Noah Holley, and welcome back to another episode of the Pride Report. That's right, it is episode 33, and today's show is absolutely loaded. I seriously mean that. We have so much to get to, from yesterday's games, to tonight's action, to conference tournaments, to bracketology, and much, much more. It is going to be a lot of fun, so without further ado, let's hop right into it. Let's start by recapping last night's games. Feast your eyes on this, and perhaps the most shocking outcome of the college basketball season. St. Joseph's hammered 17th ranked Rhode Island 78-48 on the road on the Rams senior night. There are honestly no words for how utterly stunning this result is. Considering how URI had dominated throughout the Atlantic 10 slate, this type of showing would come as a shock against anyone, let alone at the hands of a middle-of-the-pack St. Joe's squad on the Rams' home floor. It was likely that the Rams' lack of preparedness for senior night played a major role in this defeat. URI's senior class consisted of 4 starters, including leading scorers Jared Terrell and E.C. Matthews, 2 of the school's all-time greats, so it was certainly an emotional night. With that being said, there is still no excuse for going 3 for 29 behind the arc and managing just 28.1% from the field overall. This team is too good to put up anything close to those numbers. If there are any positives in this situation, and there aren't many, it's that URI now has an opportunity to toughen up in a league that has been dominated by the Rams all season long. There haven't been many chances for URI to overcome adversity. Now that they've experienced the lowest of lows, I doubt that they'll lose focus the rest of the way. We could look back on this performance a month down the road as the turning point for Rhode Island, or we could talk about it as the start of their eventual demise. It all comes down to how you handle adversity in this sport, so I'll be watching Rhode Island very closely throughout the A10 tournament. Okay, now let's talk about another senior night shocker. Miami stunned North Carolina 91-88 last night after one of the wildest finishes I have seen all season long. After Joel Berry hit a three-pointer to complete the 16-point rally, Miami's Jaquan Newton drilled a running 3 from over 30 feet at the buzzer to give the Hurricanes a much-needed signature win and stun UNC. Now, I was really impressed by Miami's performance. The Hurricanes weren't fazed in the slightest by the surging Tar Heels or the hostile environment, consistently making big shots to quiet the crowd and prevent UNC from making a run. Miami's offense ran like a well-oiled machine, which has not been the case at times this season, especially without point guard Bruce Brown. If everyone can get involved like that, the Hurricanes will be very tough to beat the rest of the way. And as for North Carolina, it's honestly kind of sad that Barry and Theo Pinson had to go out like this. They accomplished some great things at the Dean Dome, and to cap it off with such a heartbreaking loss is truly unfortunate. That aside, I'm growing increasingly confident in the Heels' chances at a deep NCAA tournament run for a 3rd consecutive year, so it's doubtful that they're going to be thinking about this for that long if that's the case. We had another upset Tuesday as Arkansas handled Auburn 91-82. Daniel Gafford scored 21, and the Razorbacks overcame a combined 48 points from the Tigers' backcourt duo of Jared Harper and Mustafa Heron to win their 6th game in their last 7. Now, I'm a big believer that Arkansas is capable of accomplishing some big things before it's all said and done. No one really talks about them, but these guys are pretty good. The combination of the Hawks' 3-point shooting ability and the interior presence of Daniel Gafford can be absolutely lethal at times, and Tuesday night was one of those times. Baylor beat Oklahoma 87-64 last night, pulling away early and never looking back to easily handle the Sooners. TJ Maston scored 23 on 10 for 14 shooting. Fellow seniors Joe Lowell, Atchie and Monty Lecomte scored 17 and 16 respectively, and Baylor dazzled on senior night. Now, the Bears returned to their winning ways, could not have come at a better time. After winning 5 in a row to surge into the projected bracket, Baylor lost back-to-back to West Virginia and TCU last week, so a win tonight was a must if the Bears were to stay in the field. Now let's talk about the NCAA, who is turning to its favorite guinea pig, the NIT, to test out a handful of experimental rule changes. In total, 4 different rule changes will be in effect throughout the NIT tournament in March. Each of these proposed rules would have a significant impact on the sport if used. First of all, we have the three-point line being extended back 1 foot 8 inches, which is the same distance used in international basketball competition. The second is the free throw lane being widened 4 feet to NBA length, or 16 feet. We also have the shot clock resetting to 20 seconds after an offensive rebound as opposed to 30 seconds. And finally, games will be split into 4 10-minute quarters, and 2 free throws will be shot beginning with the 5th foul of each quarter. Now, I personally am in favor of getting rid of 1-and-1s, and I'm perfectly fine with the three-point line being moved back. I also don't mind the offensive rebound shot clock change, but I do feel like it would cause a ton of clock issues, especially when it would first be implemented. Quarters, on the other hand, I'm very much on the fence over. I like the idea of resetting fouls. I hate fouls, but the dynamic of two long halves has always appealed to me, so I'm not sure what I think about that one yet. But yeah, let me know what you guys think. Now, these changes would be pretty drastic, so I'm very curious to hear your thoughts. In another bit of news, it was announced yesterday that Notre Dame star Bonzi Colson will return from a foot injury for Wednesday night's game against Pittsburgh, which also happens to be Notre Dame's senior night. Colson has missed the past 15 games, a time span in which Notre Dame has virtually fallen out of contention for the NCAA tournament. But with that being said, if Colson can play anything in the ballpark of the level he did prior to his injury, Notre Dame could be a nightmarish matchup in the ACC tournament. If they can somehow beat Virginia on Saturday and win 2 or 3 games in the ACC tournament, things could get pretty interesting. The bubble is exceptionally weak at the moment, which could present an opportunity for Notre Dame to sneak in if they can get hot upon Colson's return. All that aside, however, I think it's exceptionally cool that Colson will make it back in time for senior night. It should be a very cool moment. Welcome to Champ Week Central, where I'll be filling you guys in on all the conference tournament action. As of today, 3 conference tournaments have tipped off: the Atlantic Sun, the Big South, and the Patriot. Tonight, 3 more will be added to that list: the Big Ten, the Ohio Valley, and the Northeast Conference. We'll get to those either later in the show or in tomorrow's show. Today, we're going to be focusing on the conference tournaments already underway. The first round of the Atlantic Sun saw Florida Gulf Coast, Lipscomb, North Florida, and Jacksonville surviving. Each aforementioned team had little trouble beating their opponents, with the exception of North Florida, who allowed NJIT to cut a 26-point deficit to 1 in the final minute before eventually holding on. In the first round of the Patriot League, Loyola edged Army to snap a 5-game skid. They will face Bucknell, the regular season champion, on Thursday. We also had Lafayette topping American. Now they will face 2-seed Colgate on Thursday as well. In the first round of the Big South, Longwood shocked High Point 68-55. The Lancers, who had won just 3 regular season conference games, had lost to High Point by 20 and 19 points in the regular season. Charleston Southern won the other contest, easily handling Presbyterian to set up a showdown with UNC Asheville on Thursday. Last week, we talked about teams trending downwards on the projected bracket. Today, let's mix it up a little bit and talk about teams both on the rise and the decline. First, we have Virginia Tech. That is right, the Hokies are my first team on the rise. They are now a lock for the big dance after their thrilling win over Duke on Monday night. In a span of 11 games, Virginia Tech has beaten the likes of Duke, Clemson, North Carolina, and Virginia on the road, essentially every member of the ACC's elite this season. Coming into conference play, it was clear that the Hokies needed to do major work to overcome their terrible non-conference strength of schedule, and it is safe to say that they have done just that. Trending downwards is Arizona State, who I had as a 9 seed in Monday's projections, but I'm starting to rethink that decision. The Sun Devils, who are 7-9 in a relatively mediocre Pac-12 conference, have lost 3 in a row and find themselves barely off the bubble. If it weren't for the wins over Kansas and Xavier, Arizona State wouldn't be within shouting distance of anyone's bracketology. The big question for this team is just how much weight those 2 out-of-conference wins will hold. Are they enough to excuse Arizona State's poor performance in a poor conference? Are they enough to excuse the blatant lack of other marquee victories? At this point, it's all about the committee's preference because Arizona State has not looked like a tournament team over the past few weeks. If they avoid bad losses the rest of the way, I believe that they are in, but there are plenty of opportunities for a vulnerable Sun Devil squad to slip up and take a brutal blow to their tournament hopes over the next few weeks, as you can see in their remaining schedule. Now, these 2 games are very dangerous because of the impact they will have on Arizona State's tournament hopes if they lose them. Here are some other teams trending upwards or downwards in my bracket. Wichita State, NC State, and Michigan are a few of the other teams that are surging at the moment, while St. Mary's, Alabama, and Oklahoma are on the opposite end of the spectrum. Oklahoma especially is on a steep decline. The Sooners' sudden collapse is this close to costing them a tournament bid, which seemed unthinkable a few weeks ago. I talked more about them in one of last week's shows, which I'll link you to in the description. Tonight's slate features 6 ranked teams hitting the court to go along with a heavy dose of Champ Week action. Let's run through it all real quick. Starting with the Big Ten tournament, which gets underway at 5:30 p.m. on Big Ten Network when Illinois takes on Iowa in the first round. Iowa won the only meeting between these teams in the regular season, rallying from a 20-point deficit to beat the Illini 104-97 in overtime. Following that, at approximately 7:55 p.m., Rutgers will face Minnesota. If Minnesota loses this game, it would wrap up one of the more disappointing seasons in recent college basketball history. After opening the season ranked 15th in the country, the Gophers currently sit 15-16 and 4-14 in Big Ten play, thanks to injuries, suspensions, and a pathetic defense, among other things. At 6:30 p.m. on Fox Sports 1, Xavier will host Providence in a rematch of the Friars' stunning upset win over the Musketeers earlier in the season, which remains Xavier's only conference loss to a team other than Villanova. With a win in this game, Xavier will clinch their first Big East Conference title. A loss, on the other hand, would mean that Villanova controls their own destiny in the conference race. Speaking of Villanova, at 8:30 p.m. on Fox Sports 1, the Wildcats will travel to face Seton Hall. Now, it has been far from smooth sailing for the Pirates in conference play, but they have won 3 in a row now. Villanova, on the other hand, is coming off of a road loss at the hands of Creighton that put their Big East regular season title hopes in jeopardy. At 9 on ESPNU, Florida State travels to 18th-ranked Clemson, searching for redemption after being blown out by NC State on Saturday. Clemson has been struggling as well, narrowly beating Georgia Tech over the weekend to snap a 3-game losing streak. But with point guard Sheldon Mitchell back in the lineup, things could be on the upswing for the Tigers. Finally, 23rd-ranked Kentucky hosts Mississippi at 7 on ESPN2. Over their recent 3-game winning streak, Kentucky has shown flashes of a team starting to put all of the pieces together. The Wildcats are playing complete games, dominating on the boards, and getting everyone involved. Kevin Knox, in particular, has dazzled, scoring 20 points in back-to-back contests. If he continues to knock down shots, Kentucky's going to be a very dangerous team come March. If you want to see who our staff has winning each of these games and more, I've included tonight's pick'em in the description below, so be sure to go check that out. Unfortunately, that is going to do it for tonight's show. Thank you so much for watching. I sincerely hope that you enjoyed. If you did, be sure to subscribe and to follow the show on Twitter at CPP Pride Report. As always, links are in the description. Also, be sure to join me tomorrow for episode 34. That's going to be a very fun one as well. But as for this show, I'm going to go ahead and wrap this thing up. I'm out. I'll see you guys.